Hey guys, I'm Jess here with Peter, and Aaron's joining us as well to talk about two Sonic games
That's
that
right.
are headed our way, which is super exciting. Sonic is a damn classic. I'm just going to ask you a really simple question before you get into the demo version.
Yeah.
What's it like bringing out two new Sonic games in 2017? It's such a classic series.
It's a little surreal almost,
Yeah.
especially because one of them is such a big throwback to
Yeah.
the 90s, and then the other one is kind of this evolution of what Sonic has been doing over the last 10 years. So it's pretty cool. Speaking from the perspective of someone who was a fan, of Sega and Sonic growing up in the 90s, that was like my childhood.
Yeah.
And so now kind of being involved with it is surreal on its own, but then like two games, one for each kind of audience is also really, really cool.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, like, all right, let's jump right in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you play while you talk to me because that's
do
probably
that. I
gonna
can
be
try
super
that.
easy and definitely nothing will go wrong. Just don't die.
Never
Otherwise everyone
does.
will
Nothing
judge you.
ever goes wrong with Live.
But that's okay. So this is Sonic Forces. So
Yes.
do you want to let's talk to the gameplay of this? You've got three different gameplay styles, right?
That's right. So we've got the modern Sonic gameplay, we've got the classic Sonic gameplay, and for the first time ever, we are allowing people to create their own custom character,
Crazy.
custom hero character. And when we announced that, the internet rejoiced. At least certain segments went,
Yes.
"Oh my gosh, finally!
Well,
it's our
they've been
dream."
asking for ages, right?
Yeah, we get fan mail. I mean, every week of people sending in, "Here's my character, please."
Yeah.
You can search anything in the word Sonic,
The Hedgehog, right?
and you will find all manner of things.
Your name, the Hedgehog,
Yeah,
is
right.
is a running joke that even we understand in the Sega office, and we do it.
sure.
We do it all the time, and we have a great laugh too.
Yes,
It's
that's
just
a lot
fun.
of Sonic stuff out there. Half of it appropriate. So what are we?
Maybe
jump-
less than half.
Maybe less than half. So what are we jumping into first?
We'll take a look at modern Sonic first.
Great.
Now, this is Sonic Forces. It's the new game from Sonic Team. It's running on the Hedgehog Engine 2. It's a brand new engine that they developed
Cool.
for the next gen hardware. So there he is. There's
Ooh,
modern
that looks
Sonic.
beautiful. Look at the lighting.
All right. Oh yeah, the lighting. I mean, the water effects. Like,
Oh, wow,
you
yeah.
can like kind of stop and see the water rushing in over the cobblestones. Like little things that when you're running at 300 miles per hour you don't normally see.
No.
But they're there.
Stop and smell the roses.
Yeah, exactly. Gold rings, of course, we're collecting those, and I can like tap the triggers here to kind of dash left and right.
Yeah.
So the gameplay feels like an evolution of two games, and in particular that's Sonic Colors. You see these wisps here, just like Sonic Colors, and also Sonic Generations.
Right.
And the reason we picked those two games is because those were the ones, looking back at Sonic's 3D titles, those are the ones that everyone said, well, these are the games we really enjoyed, we really liked.
Okay, yeah.
And we can boost to go really fast. I'm not going to boost the entire level. We could, but I'm going to slow it down to kind of show you guys how this works.
Yeah.
By jumping twice, we can homing attack into enemies, just like that. We got the stomp.
Yep.
I'm going to avoid those
Wow,
spikes
look
of
at
death
that.
there.
I mean, I have to ask, like, how does the process go with just like ensuring the gameplay is like, I mean, there's no room for error, right, with Sonic? Like, everything goes so fast, everything needs to be so tight. I mean, is that like an extreme process of just like technically making sure it's perfect?
It's a really good question because that's been kind of like the key challenge with Sonic games is
Yeah.
finding the right control. And
Right.
control for Sonic, including the classic titles, which we'll get to after Forces with Mania, it's so important to be precise and to
Yeah.
feel like you have full control over Sonic and the other characters. And that's why one of the things the team has been working on is like really getting it right. They've evolved the controls even from Generations and from Colors.
Yeah.
And then also kind of adjusted it too. So we'll get to Classic Sonic in a second.
Yeah.
It doesn't play just like Classic Sonic did in Generations. They've
Yeah.
taken the physics, they've enhanced them, made it a little bit better. So it's those little things that they keep adding to, right? And keep evolving on.
What's the biggest change in terms of the control scheme for this style of stage?
Probably for this one, I think Modern Sonic's probably has the least amount of changes of any of the three. If you
Okay.
play Generations and Colors, it's a lot like those.
Gotcha.
Quite a bit like those. And here, we're going to speed to the end of the level. We're going to meet a familiar face. Oh, it's Shadow. And people are asking, is Shadow going to be in the game?
Oh,
we
yes.
confirmed it here at E3.
Yeah.
Yes,
He was
yes,
certainly
yes.
making a cameo. We got a little results screen here.
Oh, good job.
Oh, just an A rank though.
What
It's
was
okay.
that? S?
It's
Was
alright.
that the next one?
And so, being a Japanese developed game, of
Yes.
course, S is
Yeah.
the
Always
highest
S
rank that you
rank.
can get.
Yeah. So I mean, we talked about it a bit before, but like, how do you? There's so much expectation, especially
Yes.
like from a Sonic game. How do you go about managing what fans want, what you want to create? Like, how does that all balance out?
That's a great question. And, there's a lot of people out there that have very different tastes.
Yeah.
Right. And Sonic has gone through so many different iterations over the years and so many different styles of gameplay that now you kind of have people that may like one particular style of game, but maybe not another.
Yep.
And so it's a good question of how do you please everybody? And the answer is I don't think you ever can truly please everyone, but I think
Yeah.
the best that you can do is to try and make a game that is just fun to play in general.
Yep.
You know, and that when people try it, they go, this is really enjoyable, no matter what kind of game you like. And that's kind of what the team is trying to do here. They've got the classic style for people that really like that from Generations. They've got the modern style for the people that wanted the 3D games. And then the custom character, which kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of the people that were watching, is an evolution of the modern Sonic style. So we didn't want to call it, Generations 2.
Yeah.
We didn't want to just say, oh, we're taking the exact same physics and controls and putting those in there. And that's where the custom character comes in to kind of evolve things and mix it up.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to ask, I'm not sure if we'll get a chance to see it later, but how custom is the custom character?
We're not going to go into full details here. We took it out of the E3 build because we're like, if we put this in the build, people are going to spend 30 minutes in line.
100%.
Just
That's
making
the
a
only
character,
thing
right?
that would get tested.
Exactly. Sitting there like, no, I'm still making my character, man.
Yeah.
So we decided, all right, we'll kind of randomize it a little bit for people, and but you will get to see some. I can like back in and out and show you some different random characters. It picks one just a preset at default. And there's 7 different types. I guess I'll talk about those in just a second, but this is classic Sonic, what we're seeing right here. And we're fighting the Egg Dragoon. This boss fight started with him fighting the original boss, almost, from Green Hill Zone, where he had like the ball and chain. And this time it was a chainsaw. And so then you beat that boss. You're like, oh, cool, we're done. No, not quite. And then you get phase 2, which is this boss fight right here, the Egg Dragoon.
So is that a pretty common thing in this game, where you introduce a boss that looks like a classic one and then it evolves slightly, or is it maybe just this case?
This is one of the biggest cases, I think, but there might be some other surprises, certainly, waiting in store for fans as they go through. So there we go. We've defeated the Egg Dragoon now.
Excellent.
Get some dialogue. Yes. In the background there, you were seeing some sand, little sand waterfalls or sand falls, I guess in that case. What's the technical term for those sand falls? Is that right?
I'm not a scientist, but
let's go live to the
You're not a scientist? What are you doing?
I know I have glasses.
Sand falls?
Yeah.
Gosh.
So you kind of see the effects of Eggman taking over on the world. And that's kind of the story of this game, is that Eggman has conquered 99% of the world. And it's up to Sonic and Classic Sonic and the character that you make to kind of fight back as the uprising and take back the world from him.
How do you explain the 3 of those coexisting? Or at least even just modern Sonic and Classic Sonic, the same...
Well, I could go into details, but I would kind of spoil things. So in order to not spoil the story, and because I know a lot of Sonic fans are going to be watching and listening to this and going, let's go over every single word that we get as an answer. I don't want to spoil it yet, but we will explain that. I promise you. It will be explained.
As long as it's addressed.
Yes.
100%.
Well, what can you tell us about the story?
Well, that's kind of the key thing that we've revealed so far. The Eggman has taken over the world. He's done it with the help of a brand new villain that we revealed in our E3 trailer, and that villain's name is Infinite.
Right.
And not much is known about Infinite, except that there's also other villains making a return. Shadow's one of them. Chaos from Sonic Adventure making an appearance. Metal Sonic, and Zavok from Sonic Lost World. So kind of this all-star cast of villains showing up. What we're seeing here is our custom character. Let me see if I can back out and show you guys... Actually, let's go with this. So we've got 2 different choices of Wispawns.
Yeah.
Wispawns are gadgets that allow us to not only go on the offense against enemies, but also to platform in the level. So we can do the burst or the lightning. I'm going to do the burst and show you guys that one.
So I assume there's going to be a lot of those in the...
Definitely more than 2. Quite a few more.
More than 2. There you go. You heard it on GameSpot first.
You heard it
More
here
than
first,
2.
folks.
That's a quote. Can the news team get on that? That would be great.
Yeah, we'll be waiting for the headline.
More than 2.
Sega confirms.
Awesome. So what are we looking at here?
We're looking at, this is the side-scrolling part of the custom character gameplay. And just like with modern Sonic, we'll be going between the 2D kind of side-scrolling and the 3D over-the-shoulder kind of camera by grabbing one of these Wispawns. So now on the bottom left, my meter is filled up, and I can push the triangle button here to start boosting. Here we go. And I can launch myself through the air, and by picking up more of these as we're going through.
Oh, okay.
There we go. It'll keep refilling, and I can just use that to launch myself through the level. Can't leave that red star ring. There we go.
So with these extra abilities, I'm actually curious, like if you can make a custom character that is actually looks like Sonic, and then in essence play as Sonic with these Wispawns.
You can get close.
Okay.
You can't make an exact clone of Sonic, but you can have fun. We've in the office we've been going through and making characters that were as close to certain Sonic memes as possible to see like can it be done, you know? Very edgy looking characters. And you can get pretty creative with it.
Right.
Your character will also show up in the cutscenes of the game whenever your character appears. So if you go the silly route, right? It can be pretty fun watching your character run around.
That's great. So I mean, was it the right time now? You were just like, the fans want it, and we're in a place where it makes sense to include this as an option?
Yeah, and I think Sonic Team had been kind of mulling this over for some time and kind of wanting to include something like this. And the opportunity came up, and with the next gen hardware, it made a lot of sense to kind of add this in and to see what people thought. And based on the reaction we've seen so far, there's a lot of very excited people, but I think the cool thing about it really is that you don't have to necessarily be what I would call a super fan to appreciate the character creator. You don't have to be the person, on DeviantArt posting your fan art every day to like it. You can take it seriously. You can just be really silly with it. It's totally up to you.
Yeah.
And how much do these levels different from the classic stages otherwise?
Oh, well, what you're seeing right here, this version of Green Hill Zone, the level layout, all of that was brand new.
Okay.
This is kind of in the setting of Green Hill Zone as it's been taken over by Eggman, but everything that we're playing is brand new and different. I'm going to kind of dodge these.
I'm really nervous right now watching this.
Don't be nervous.
I'm like, hit the buttons.
Everything's totally fine, I promise. Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably. We'll dodge these. There we go.
That's very threatening.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do, okay, we're almost there. We're going to wait for that target to go over the circle. Perfect. Hey, all right. I think that's the first perfect.
Get that S rank.
We're going for it. We're trying. We'll wrap the grappling hook there around the legs of that giant enemy, and then there we go, a little cinematic moment. And so it's important from the team's perspective to make sure that people really enjoy playing all three types within the game. And so you've got that modern Sonic, people like that. You've got classic Sonic, and then you've got the evolution of the gameplay, which is hopefully going to be an S rank here. Let's see. Oh, come on, please. Oh, wait.
I believe in you.
Oh, no, A rank. I spent too much time talking.
That's very upsetting.
Oh, it's our fault.
That was the mistake. The interview. That's what
To the bosses in Japan, I am very sorry. I have shamed you. Please forgive me.
Well, I would like to ask. I mean, obviously, like we've grown up with Sonic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for us, it's like it's a nostalgic thing. It's revisiting like our childhood. How do you see this game appealing to kids, teenagers who didn't grow up with Sonic?
Yeah. Well, it's fun because you would think, and maybe this is like the perspective that we've got from our generation, maybe. We grew up with it. We're like, oh, cool. Maybe there's this big gap between ourselves and a new generation of Sonic fans. There's actually not necessarily. And what I've learned in my time in the Sonic community is that there is this continuing evolution of people that came into it, kids that came into it when they were 12 or when they were 10, right? Maybe their first game was Sonic Adventure, their first game was Sonic Heroes, or even Sonic Generations. One of my favorite stories is that I met a kid in New York Comic Con once, and he was probably like 8 years old, and we were demoing a Sonic game there, and I was like, oh, nice to meet you. What's your favorite Sonic game? And I was expecting the kid to tell me, one of the more recent Sonic games, Generations or Colors or something. And he looked at me, and without any hesitation, he was like, Sonic 2.
Wow.
And I was like, that game was like 10 years before you were born, is what's going on in my mind. And it was a good moment kind of for me to realize that there's a lot of kids out there that are growing up and playing Sonic games or even discovering these Sonic games from years past and appreciating them and enjoying them. And so it's kind of neat.
That's really
in that
exciting.
sense.
Well, that leads us on to really good point, because Sonic Mania is that. I mean, do we have a demo to crack into on that one?
Yeah, I think we've got some gameplay footage to show off.
Okay. So
That's
we'll go into that and we'll talk to
Hey.
this. So, wow, okay, well, this obviously looks very different. So we got Classic here.
We do.
Heading back into the Classic. And this was made with the fans in collaboration with the people who love Sonic, is that correct?
That's right. So this is Sonic Mania. It's a brand new 2D adventure. You can see from what's on the screen there, this is a very retro Sonic title. It's pretty much what would have happened had Sonic games continued on in 2D, on the Sega Saturn maybe in like 1995 or 6.
Yeah.
And the people that are making this, the reason it looks so good, the reason that the physics are so perfect is because the people making it, they were fans growing up. That's exactly right. And then they've become professional developers.
Yeah.
And so now they're really good programmers or coders or level designers or musicians. And you have this kind of all-star team that's come in now, and they're making this game, and it's just kind of amazing because they put so much effort into it, and there's so many little Easter eggs in there. But at the same time, because it's a 2D Sonic game, it's so easy to just get lost in it. Or if you haven't played a Sonic game in a long time, to pick up the controller and go, oh, I run around, I get gold rings, and I run to the end of the level. And that's the simplicity of classic Sonic is very appealing to me personally.
Yeah. I read the people contributing to this are also sort of based like all over the world as well.
Yeah, one of the lead developers, Christian Whitehead, is in Australia.
Yeah.
One of our lead. Oh yeah, there you go. One of our lead artists, in fact, two of our artists are from the UK.
Yeah.
A lot of our developers are up in Seattle. That's Pagoda West. Those guys are all up in Seattle. One of the musicians on the East Coast, that's T. Lopes. So we've got people all around the world that are contributing to this and making it happen. And it's neat, but it's also such a kind of a magical moment because.
Yeah.
All right, so bear with me here, but Japanese publishers, I've mentioned this before, but Japanese publishers in some cases are not cool with fan projects.
Yeah.
And you don't have to look far to find examples of
Wait,
that
what?
in the world today, right?
Sure.
And so for Sega to come out and not only say, this is a cool fan project, but we would like to work with you guys and officially make a project with you guys. I was kind of a little bit in disbelief when I first heard that this was greenlit and it was actually happening.
Yeah.
There's that moment, that big fluttering of your heart where you're like, oh, is this a thing now, And we were all so excited, but I'm just really pleased that Sega took that stance and was open to doing that. And I'm hoping that other publishers someday will also kind of look to their fans and maybe Mania can be kind of a case study. Fingers crossed someday for why you should embrace the passion of your fans.
And it's the old saying, the customer's always right, So why not empower the customer in that sense to, give things back?
Yeah, exactly. And and there's sometimes too, like your customers, your fans might have lots of crazy ideas.
Yeah.
Of course.
And you can't always please everyone or get stretched too thin with a million, 80 different features and customization options in your game, but these guys, they know what makes classic Sonic work.
Right.
They grew up with it, right?
Yeah.
They spent their lives going through this stuff and playing it, and they have that level of attention to detail that you won't find that when you get other devs that you might just hire to be like, oh, we'll hire you guys to make a classic game for us. They wouldn't put that same level of dedication or passion into it that these guys are going to put in just because they love it. So
subtleties and like the nuance things, right? Like those little things make a big difference.
it is. Like this is Chemical Plant Zone Act 2.
Yeah.
And the game itself is a mix of classic levels and brand new levels.
Right,
So
okay.
The cool thing though is that the classic levels, Act 1 of the classic levels, is maybe a bit like what you remember. We kind of took the original Act 1 and 2, squished them together into the Act 1 in Mania, like for Chemical Plant and for Green Hill Zone. But when you get to the end of that, and you get to Act 2, you get to this totally new level. You've never seen it before, you've never played it before, and we're pretty excited, like with Chemical Plant Zone is a good example, to see what people think when they see just how different these levels have become. It's very nostalgic on one hand, but also very unique and very new.
Yeah. Are there any other modern elements that we can see here? Like, what was it like managing the collision of like wanting to kind of refresh, but at the same time, I mean, you're reinventing a classic, so obviously you want to hold on to that.
Yeah, and it's a good question because in that case, I think the team wanted to, on one hand, stay true to what classic Sonic was. And you'll see that here. The physics, when you play the game, everyone that's here at E3 and has played it goes, oh, it feels just like I remember it. And there's a reason for that. Like Christian, the lead developer, rebuilt the physics from the original Sonic games by hand in his own engine because the emulators just weren't good enough.
Wow, yeah.
And very few other developers would put that kind of passion into it. So on one hand, they want to stay true to that. On the other hand, they don't want you to have the same Sonic remaster that you've played, time and time again over the last X amount of years, right? And so that's the exciting part, I think, for me personally, watching this from the fan perspective, even internally at Sega, is going, this is really cool, kind of to see this come together, to see the new things they're adding. There's Knuckles climbing right there.
Yeah, I mean, it looks gorgeous. I think one of the main things I wanted to ask was, I mean, there are a ton of Sonic games, and there are a handful that have not been well received, shall we say. But that said, there's a lot of positivity like that I've heard, like particularly from my friends, from Sonic fans, who are really excited about the way these two games look. How does it feel? Like, is there an element of pressure to be like, oh, okay, everyone's expecting a lot, like people are like, these are going to be great Sonic games? Like, how does the team feel with that kind of fan expectation and feedback?
Okay, so first off, I just want to say Sonic 2006 was the best Sonic game ever.
Okay,
no, I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
I paid $60 for Sonic 2006 when I was in college, and I remember that experience very well.
I wasn't referring to that game. I don't know what you mean.
No, not at all. It had good music. I tell everyone, it's like it had good music. And there's certainly been moments in the past where certain Sonic games definitely did not live up to like the quality bar that I think a lot of us as fans and as gamers really want it to be at. And thankfully, Sega has taken a very different approach over the last few years. They started with Sonic Boom Fire and Ice, which they delayed to kind of add some more stuff into. Sonic Mania even, we pushed out until August. It was going to come out earlier this year, but we looked at it and we knew we can make this game even better with a little more time. Like, it's already good, but with even more time, it can be even better. And so in that great debate of, do you release a game early or do you give it the time that it needs, a little extra time to bake to be, 5-10% better? right? Oh, you like this? You like what you see?
This is so cool.
Okay, so this is Mirage Saloon. This is one of those brand new levels that I was talking about. There's one called Studiopolis that we opened with long ago when we first announced the game. It's like a Hollywood-inspired level.
Yeah.
This is a desert-inspired level, and a little bit of trivia on this.
Okay.
There was a desert level planned in Sonic 2,
Yeah.
and it never happened.
Okay.
And so Christian Whitehead was making the Sonic CD mobile remaster for that Sonic CD game, and he was trying to put the desert level back in as like a Sonic CD thing, throw that reference in there, and they said no. They're like, we can't do it. There's no time we can't do it. So Sonic Mania gets greenlit, and I think one of the first things probably on Christian's mind is we are making that desert level happen. It is going to be in this game, and thus Mirage Saloon was born. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of fun history to this, and they've built all of this is brand new. There's these little launchers that he can use to fire himself
wow.
up. Yep, there we go.
You know, you said Sonic continued into the Sega Saturn era. That was
Yeah.
2D. Sega Saturn, like I'm a big vintage game collector and player, and Sega Saturn is currently my favorite system. And to see the sprites of this scale and like the classic sort of like rotating effect, it's like this is I wish I could play it on my Saturn. Sickly enough, but I can't wait to actually play this on PS4.
Fun fact: we've actually been demoing it sometimes with Saturn pads.
Excellent.
Like USB Saturn pads.
Yeah. Very familiar. Yeah.
And that's so it's a neat moment there. The sprites you just talked about the sprites; those have all been updated. So
Oh yeah, I can even tell like the animation, the extra frames in there. It's
Yep.
like just a little bit enough to be like, that seems weird, but like also better. Yeah.
They've added animations in. Like the game runs at 60 frames per second, which is great for a Sonic game. A lot of the originals ran pretty close to that. But the animations didn't always flow quite as smoothly. And so they've gone in, and the artist, one of the lead artists, his name is Tom, he's gone through, he built that opening animation where Sonic jumps up out of the logo and spins around, right? Built that over 2 weeks before the announcement of the game. Probably didn't sleep much. And so they've gone in through all of the sprites and just updated everything. The running animation has more frames. The idle animations are new. Like all of it's been touched up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of really the case with the entire game. We want people to understand that every single level in Sonic Mania is a new level that you haven't seen before. You get to Green Hill Zone Act 1, and in the first 10 seconds you go, oh, I've seen this.
Yeah.
And then 20 seconds later you go, wait, there's a spring there that wasn't there. And you take the spring and you go, there's a new upper path that wasn't here. Or you go below and you're like, there's a cavern area? This never existed, in the original Green Hill Zone on Sonic 1. And it's that level of detail that they're putting into every single stage.
Yeah.
And there's even more that we haven't talked about yet, and we're kind of doing it on purpose.
Yep.
It's like we don't want to spoil everything for people, but since it's coming out in a couple months, we're at that point now where we're going, all right, we're wrapping it up, we're putting the final layers of polish on there and testing everything, and it's almost ready to go. So we're
Yeah, but what's going to happen when this becomes wildly popular and people are like, we want Sonic Mania 2?
in my opinion, that's if you really want a Sonic Mania 2, the best thing you can do is buy as many copies of Sonic Mania
There you go. Well, there
as
you
possible.
go.
Speak with your wallets there, and it's hard for Sega to not hear that.
Yeah.
As any company.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's that, man. I'm a super fan of all of this kind of 2D stuff, and just really Sonic in general. And that's why it's kind of like such a privilege to get to watch this come together and to watch what the teams are making. It's kind of a historic moment for Sonic, especially this year with these two games coming out, and for the first project we've ever partnered with fans on, and that's why it's like I'm like fingers crossed, but I'm also so excited.
Yeah, I mean, I
moment.
think we're all excited. Like, I'm so happy for you guys. I'm so happy for Sonic. They both look like incredible games, and I know we're just waiting for them to come out.
I know. Well, the good news is that Sonic Mania comes out on August 15th, so it's only a couple months away now.
Easy.
So yes.
All right, that'll tide us over then.
That will get you started.
Okay.
And it's only going to be $19.99.
All right.
That was the other big thing. We knew we could have priced it probably a fair bit higher, but we thought, let's make this an amazing price to go with an amazing game. And this will be kind of the thing that people jump in and they go, this is such a great deal, and I really love it. We've got the collector's edition too, that we put a little infomercial, like a 90s style infomercial out there.
Yeah.
And that did very well. And so there's like a big statue you get with that one.
Yeah.
But the game itself is only $19.99, and the pre-orders are up.
Cool.
As far as Sonic Forces goes, that's coming out in the holiday. So Mania will come out in August, and then a little bit later, end of the year, Sonic Forces will come out. Both games coming out on pretty much every platform.
Great.
So PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, plenty to look forward to, plenty of places to play it on. Thanks so much for joining us, Aaron.
Thanks for having me.
We will be back soon, so don't go away.